Hello flight sim enthusiasts and welcome back to Drunk Billy Flies. Today we're going to take a quick flight from Montague Airport in Smith Falls, Ontario to Norman Rogers Airport in Kingston, Ontario, my hometown. We're going to be using Air Manager as usual, and yeah, there's a completely new layout to my cockpit screens, my actual instrumentation in Air Manager, as well to the screen in for video capture. So stick around and let's look at it together, shall we?
All right, we're here in my cockpit now. Anyone who's been following my videos over the past little while will see that this is a completely new layout in terms of what you see on your screen currently. I've been kind of struggling with trying to best display all the information of what's going on, what I'm doing physically in the cockpit, along with the flight sim itself and all that stuff. And I think that this is going to be a pretty good balance here that will really display what it is I'm doing. So not only that, but I've got a completely new layout as well for my instrument panels. I purchased the C172SP K-Wire panel from Sim Innovations for Air Manager. They have this beautiful background for it, made to look like the dashboard of a Cessna. I had to edit it in Photoshop and do some magic with it to make it actually look proper and fit everything. I had no use for having the avionics and radio and audio controls on my main screen here, since that they're on my secondary screen. So I did some resizing and some readjustment in Photoshop, and now it looks really, really good. And I also kind of did the same thing over on my avionics panel. I'm now using a couple of slightly different instruments from the last time I did a video on the Cessna 172, using the different audio panel. I like this one due to the large buttons on it. I prefer the other Garmin one I was using before, but this Bendix King it's just easier to use. The buttons will fit my fat fingers a lot better. I'm also using a different transponder than I was previously. See, I did some photoshopping down at the bottom here to make like part of a dashboard look and integrate the throttle and mixture controls and the parking brake and such to, you know, give it a slightly, I guess, realistic look. Just because I could. But we're not going to stick on the details here. We're going to go back to we're going to go to the flight plan, the little nav map. Like I said, we're taking a quick flight from Montague Airport in Smith Falls, Ontario, down to Norman Rogers Airport in Kingston, Ontario. It's a 52 nautical mile trip, so pretty quick to get there overall. So now let's get inside the plane and get this thing started. So, put it on the parking brake, turning on my fuel, mixture full, throttle. I guess I should have done the battery before doing this. Fuel pump. Seconds, there we go. Throttle 1/4 inch. I like the fact that you can actually see it here moving, which is nice. Mixture to lean. Panel lights on. Bacon light on. And feet ready to brake. There we go. We have startup. Mixture to full. Just gonna put the RPM lever up just because. Go the way that way. 1000 RPM. Alternator on. Avionics on. Go. 5 kilohertz for my radios. This is supposed to save between sessions, but for whatever reason, I cannot get these settings to save between sessions. It will save between flights if I have multiple contiguous flights, but if I restart the sim, they always reset down to 8.33. I don't know why. This is using the PMS50 mod. Should work, apparently, according to the mod creator, but it doesn't. So there must be something like a livery or something interfering. I know it's not the livery that's on this plane now because I've removed it and it still does the same thing. But there's something else in my community folder that's interfering with it, and I cannot figure out what it is. So, okay, so transponder's on. Go. We are going to go up to, say, 3,000 feet today. It's easy altitude. So, and let's see. Not giving me ATIS here. Okay, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. So, see, I'm doing this off screen. Guys, see it right now. I'm chart for CYSH. I'll see what the elevation is. About 410 feet. Can't get ATIS. Set my barometer. It's on the altitude airfield. 302 roughly. Should of it. So yeah, it's not giving me a an ATIS frequency ever read. Okay, so we'll tune to Ottawa ground. 128.7. Get our taxi.
Ottawa ground, Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, ready to taxi south departure. Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, taxi to and hold short of runway 06 using taxiway. Contact tower on 128.175 when ready. Taxi to and hold short runway 06 via taxiway Cessna Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Okay, nav and taxi lights on. Brakes off. Throttle. I've never taken off of runway 6 here before. It's always 24 anytime. It's clear?
Ottawa Tower, Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, ready for south departure at runway 06. Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot cleared for takeoff runway 06 departure to the south approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 06 Cessna Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Based on the wind, I really should be taking off on 2-4, but there's not. Okay, so altitude mode on the transponder. Don't need flaps, all lights are on. Back taxi. Normally I can take off from here. Probably would be able to take off on 06. But I'm going to back taxi anyway, just because there's not quite as much room. runway is much longer in this direction than. Yeah, no run-ups today, no checklists, so I will likely forget stuff. Checking checklists. Great. Let's get her done. Speed 5. See, there's not very much room on this runway. This direction's probably good though. Some trim. There's 75.
Cessna Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, continue for south departure. I will contact you next when you leave my airspace. Ottawa Tower, Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, continue for south departure.
Yeah, I tend to use the wheel on my Logitech multi-panel for my trim. It's because it gives me finer control than the electric trim. The actual trim that you see down here on my secondary screen actually does work. Yeah, but it's very, very coarse. So I tend not to use it. The wheel part is there for show, but I do use the indicator itself for visual. Gives me an idea of where my trim is. Stop my climb rate. Shouldn't have to start adjusting mixture here at this altitude, but unfortunately, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Should be authorization to change frequencies here quite shortly.
Tower, Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, frequency change.
34975 is my next frequency. Lock code here.
Montreal Center, Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is type Cessna Skyhawk, 3 miles southwest of Charlie Yankee Sierra Hotel. Request flight following. Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Montreal Center. Squawk 3533. Cessna Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, radar contact 3 miles southwest of Charlie Yankee Sierra Hotel, 3,200 feet. altimeter tree 0.22. Copy, Cessna Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
feet. Went 500 further than I was expecting. All right. So, nav mode. E, nav, hold. Bring it to 3,000 feet. That's pretty close, but I forgot one thing earlier. Set my barometer. My autopilot knows. Kind of slow descent down. Beautiful, beautiful countryside here. Back here we have the town of Smith Falls. There we go, we're at a nice level flight, cruise speed, knots. Ground speed, that is. Oh, turns out it's roughly or indicated as well. Temperature 13°C, which is about right. This actually looks very much like the conditions here today. It's a little bit cloudier today. And let's tune in to Yates and Kingston.
Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo Airport information. Charlie 14000. Wind 228 at 9er. Visibility. Side conditions, few clouds at 700 feet, few clouds at 4,300 feet, few clouds at 12,100 feet. Temperature, 13, 2.10. Altimeter tree, 0.27. ILS, runway 19er in use. Landing and departing runway 19er. DSR, aircraft, say direction of flight. All aircraft read back all short instructions. Advise controller, on initial contact, you have Charlie.
I'm 9.
Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo Airport information. Charlie 14000. Wind 229er at 10. Visibility, tree.
Okay, good enough. Let's see what the actual METAR says for here. See it right here. Actually, I'll do it from here. See it better that way. CYGK, METAR 231. $36019. Yeah. Doesn't really match up with what they just told me. Although I'm sure this comes to a surprise to nobody. Well, let's hope that Sim Update 4 fixes the weather. It'd be nice to actually be able to reliably use weather in the Sim. Sorry about that. I had forgot to switch back to the other screen. Still need to get used to my new setup here. And seems like we have no live traffic today, although this is a fairly quiet area. Usually you can expect to see at least one or two other planes. Again, the last like several days live traffic has been really hit or miss in the sim. Oh, forgot to switch off my lights. Yeah, the weather seems hit or miss. Live traffic, whether we get it or not, seems very hit or miss. So we're 2 days away from Sim Update 4, barring any delays due to issues. Hopefully we see some improvements to weather. I mean, I'm personally not holding my breath here. They could have done stuff for weather a long time ago and chose to ignore it. We'll see what they do this week. But this will be obviously the last video I'm doing on this version of Flight Simulator. Next time around will be under Sim Update 4. Oh, and another thing is the tree draw distance. Just like, look at that. It's like a circle around the plane. Go outside. You can like literally see where the trees end, and everything switches to low res ground textures. Some people apparently don't see this, but yeah, I know because I've flown this route often, and this used to be trees as far as the eye can see, high-res detail as far as the eye can see, and now it's just fuzzy. Like, if I zoom in here, you can see how low-res texture everything is outside of my immediate little circle. Looks great here. I mean, it looks fantastic. But outside of that, looks just horrible. It's really been kind of robbing the realism from the sim as of late. But Air Manager works great. What can I say? I do like Air Manager here. Let me set my heading bug. So yeah, with the two separate knobsters, I can assign one knobster per screen. You can't do it on a per instrument basis, but you can do it per screen. So each touch screen, or rather, each panel you have, you could have a knobster for it. So let's say, for example, that I had one panel that only took up...
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, contact Toronto Center on 124.675.
124.675.
124.675 for Cessna Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Toronto Center, Cessna Charlie
Check
Oscar
in
Whiskey
with them.
Tango Foxtrot, 3,000 feet.
Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Toronto Center. Continue as planned. Altimeter tree, 0.24.
There we go. So, it's not really a per screen thing for Knobster, it's a per panel. So technically speaking, I could have one panel that takes up half the screen that uses Knobster A, and another panel that takes up the other half of the screen using Knobster B. But I prefer it this way, that this one controls my main screen and this one here controls by radios and stuff. Plus, previously I would, you know, tap on, let's say I'm going to do my procedures, for example. I'd go in here. Well, now I have to go over here and turn this Knobster to get what I wanted. Then come back over here, fiddle with knobs, turn this Knobster. Now it's right there, much closer to what they would be on the actual real real Garmin's. So this is a lot more convenient having this extra Knobster over here. Also, plus, whenever I worked on this screen, my arm being up here actually sort of blocks my view. I have to kind of like lean over and look around to see my screen. So now my screen is clear when I'm looking at it. So having the two Knobsters is a big plus. I quite enjoy that. But yeah, this is really nice. I quite enjoy the new instruments that I got with the pay panel. Like, all the instruments on my main screen here are all new, except the HSI up here in the upper right corner. For some reason, the one in the pay panel only locks to nav2. There's an option in the drop-down menus that tells you, that gives you the option of reading nav1 or nav2 for the CDI, and it refuses to lock on regardless of what setting I put it on. It's always on nav2. So I went and got this HSI for a Cessna 152 of all things. It looks good and it works really well. So that one instrument is a little bit mismatched up here on the top corner. But yeah, everything else is part of the new payware panel. I really like the fuel selector down at bottom center. This will actually let me use the Knobster to select it now, whereas the free instrument, it's just by tap. And also, I have the proper fuel shut-off valve now. You can have the option of hiding this as well. I don't like it. I just keep it shown at all times. But yeah, this is a really nice panel. Like I said, I did some Photoshop modification to modify what the stock one looks like. I can actually, I think I have one here, do I? Yes. Let's see if I can show you. This is what the default payware panel looks like for Air Manager. It's got all the instruments on one screen. These buttons are honestly way too small on a 15.6 inch monitor like I've got. So maybe if it was like a 24-inch monitor, these would be more than sizable enough, but it's just not big enough on this screen. So I had to do what I had to do, and I did some photoshopping, and there we go. I made everything much better size. And same thing for the secondary screen. I'm using all the pay instruments here as well, including the throttle and mixture controls. The transponder, I kind of like this better than the old Bendix King that used to be in this plane previously. And like I said, this actual audio selection panel is really nice. Oop, I don't want nav1 in there. Yeah, the audio selection panel is really nice because the buttons are nice and big. There's no fiddling with tiny little buttons if I want to do stuff. It's just really easy to use. Alright, back to the main view. And here, I guess I will switch to the camera view and give you the layout of my system here. I use a Next Level Racing flight stand as the base for my setup. I have my Logitech rudder pedals mounted below, which is, you might, no, I don't think you can see that from the camera. So I mounted a shelf on top of the flight stand so that I could mount all this extra stuff to, and that everything is one modular unit. When I'm done playing the flight sim, I can grab this, I can pull it and drag it over into the corner of my room here out of the way and use my computer normally. So I have over on this side, which you can't really see because my yoke is in the way, you can see the ignition is my Logitech switch panel. I got obviously my Honeycomb Alpha yoke, which I have my Xbox controller mounted to it with, I don't know how well you can see, it's mounted with adhesive Velcro strips, the fuzzy side being on the stick in case I want to take it off and actually use it to play a game. I don't have this rough stuff on the bottom, and it fits nice and securely. Over here I have my Logitech multi-panel autopilot panel, which I have to say I don't use a whole lot except for the trim and flap control. I mean, most of my other controls are run off of Air Manager. And down here, which you can just barely see, is my Logitech throttle quadrant. Now, that said, I do plan, when they become available again, to replace the throttle quadrant with a honeycomb. So that means the multi-panel and the switch panel will no longer be required either, because I will have all the switches that I could possibly want on those two. But it's not available right now, and where it is, scalpers have made it so ridiculously expensive that it's just not worthwhile buying. So we're simply not going to buy it. So yeah, oh well, I guess we should go here. And here, of course, we have the two Wymaxit 15.6-inch touch monitors. They are mounted on these Stay-Level Avionics monitor mounts, which are designed specifically for these exact monitors. On this side here, I have a DIY Knobster made using a Prop Wash Sims a dual rotary encoder. I had built another one on this side for this side too, but unfortunately there was one of the axes of the Prop Wash Sims encoder that was faulty. You know, through multiple rewirings, troubleshooting, swapping parts with this one, everything in my setup was correct, and it came down to one of the actual outer knob. Regardless which way I turned it, it was always turning the same direction. I checked my solder connections, I tested everything I possibly could. Like I said, I swapped parts out between the units, and everything worked great as long as I was using this encoder. But in the other one, it just refused to work whatsoever. So I decided to try to get an actual Sim Innovations Knobster instead. So yeah, so that's the entire layout of my cockpit, all my parts. You can see relatively, I wouldn't say cheap. I mean, these are a couple of $100 each for the monitors. The DIY Knobster was like dirt cheap to build, was about $45 Canadian or so. It was really, really reasonable. Obviously, the Sim Innovations Knobster is just a smidgen more expensive. And, you know, the actual parts themselves are, you know, Comes up to probably like a couple of $1,000s, but the beauty is something like this you can build up over time. You can start with a yoke throttle and pedals, then you can add a couple of pieces here and there, and you're not really tied into any particular plane type. Like right now, I can't realistically do dual throttle because I only have, 3 levers on my throttle. I mean, I can still do it, with having 2 controls to each, but ideally I'd really like to have duals because I do like flying the Beechcraft Baron, and the A62 is also up there. The Aeronauto PA44 I kind of like. I don't have a panel built for it yet though. I was using a the Baron Fruit panel, which actually happened to work quite nicely for it, but I do want to build a panel for it at some point. But yeah, hardware wise, this is it. It's nothing, compared to some of these guys that have, tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff in their home cockpits. This is a fairly modest setup, but it's very, very effective, and I love the fact that it doesn't lock me into one type of plane. Oh, switch back here, and we're getting close. We are 10 miles away from target. So let's start a descent here. Let's go down to about 1,500. .500 feet per minute. And we'll tune Kingston Radio 1225. Check the ATIS again here.
Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo Airport information. Charlie 15000. Wind 014 at 29er. Visibility 15. Sky condition. Few clouds. at
014
700
it
feet.
says,
Few
so-
clouds at 4,300 feet. Few clouds at 12,100 feet. Temperature 20. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.999er. ILS runway 19er in use. Landing and departing runway 19er.
Hey, 29er, 9er, 9er for altimeter. No. It looks like 19er is probably the correct, and I can see it off in the distance here. Oh god, those textures are horrible at a distance. So I am going to switch to heading. I'm going to line myself up for a straight-in approach on 19er. Actually, to help guide me here, I will... .1113 is the ILS on 19er. Got my first stage of flaps. settle down. Little high here. Oh, but okay. Stage of flaps. Manually shoot the ILS. No, flaps all the way down. Lights on. Yeah, the wind, if you can look at my the Garmin, okay, I'm landing with a tailwind, so not 19ers. So the ATIS and the sim weather aren't matching up whatsoever. Whoa. Dusty. But you see the windsock says that this is the right direction. Down nice and Ooh. Bounce around a little bit. Yeah. Whoa, come on, come on, come on. And the landing rolls just seem so bad. Like, yeah, you look at my, I'm gonna stop right here for a second. You look at the wind direction. Oh, well, now it's matching. Yeah. Yeah, some inconsistencies here. Oh, no, it isn't matching. The wind is coming from behind me, according to my Garmin. But if you look at here, the wind is coming from my nose. So we get like different wind readings everywhere. Not surprising that landings and the rolls and, you know, the weather veining of the aircraft are all off kilter. But yeah, so we made it. Oh, going all over the place here.
Yankee Golf Kilo traffic Cessna Charlie Oscar Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is clear of the runway.
Here we go. Welcome to Kingston. This is a custom airport, or a custom scenery for the airport. It's still using auto-gen buildings and stuff, but the guy who's created has actually done a really nice job and using buildings that at least somewhat match reality. He's fixed a lot of the parking spots, a lot of the runways. He's put the fencing around. He's put like some set pieces, like, so it does look a lot more realistic, even though it's not perfect. There we go. Parking brake on. Should have already turned all my main lights on to not blind my dude here. Go. Extra to 0. Fuel off. Magneto's off. Beacon light off. And we're done. So thank you for joining in, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the new format. I'm still getting used to using this, but yeah, if you like it, please by all means hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next video. Till then, everybody take care and happy skies.